Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I lay awake, staring at the ornate ceiling, feeling the cold emptiness beside me where Philip slept. Our marriage, arranged to merge family empires, had long since withered into something hollow and unrecognizable. In the early days, I had clung to the hope that our union might evolve into something more, but Philip's cold demeanor crushed those hopes quickly. I was merely an accessory, a tool for his ambitions. Recently, his absences grew longer, his excuses more flimsy. Something was brewing beneath his icy exterior, something darker. I slipped out of bed, unable to ignore the gnawing dread any longer. In the kitchen, I poured a glass of water, trying to calm my nerves. My thoughts drifted to my parents, how they had always protected me, even in death, by leaving me their estate. But I had seen the greed in Philip's eyes, how his inquiries about the inheritance had grown more aggressive. He was biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike. The sound of the door creaking open behind me made me jump. Philip stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk," he said, his voice cold. "What about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The estate. It's time I took over managing it." His words confirmed my suspicions. I felt a surge of anger, stronger than my fear. "This isn't about managing finances, Philip. This is about you taking what isn't yours." Philip's eyes narrowed. "You're delusional, Allison. I'm your husband. This is my responsibility. Our future," I snapped. "There's no future for us, Philip. You've always been in this for yourself." For a moment, silence hung between us, heavy and tense. Then, without another word, Philip turned and left the room. I knew then that the end was near, but I wasn't going down without a fight. Later that day, as I finalized preparations to secure my inheritance, the doorbell rang. A stranger handed me an envelope with a warning. "You're being watched. Don't trust anyone." My blood ran cold. I had underestimated the danger I was in, but it was too late to turn back now. The morning after Philip's abrupt departure, I awoke to an eerie silence that seemed to echo through the house. The space felt larger, emptier, as if Philip's presence had been erased from every corner. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what. I walked through the house, calling out his name, but there was no answer. His suitcase was gone, and so were several of his suits. On the kitchen counter, I found a half-empty cup of coffee, the liquid inside long gone cold, and a note that made my stomach churn. "Taking care of business. Don't wait up." I stood frozen, the note crumpled in my hand. What business? Where had he gone? Why hadn't he told me anything? Panic began to creep in, but I pushed it down. I couldn't afford to lose control, not now. After several hours of fruitless calls and texts to Philip, I decided to go through the house more thoroughly. I needed answers, but the more I searched, the more unsettling details I found. Drawers left open, documents scattered. Philip had left in a hurry. Then, in our bedroom, I found a piece of paper that made my heart race. A divorce form, filled out with my name and his, only needing signatures. My hands shook as I held the document. Philip was planning to leave me, and he hadn't even bothered to tell me. I crumpled the paper in anger, but as I did, a thought struck me: the bank book. I rushed to the drawer where I kept it, my heart pounding in my chest. The drawer was empty. Panic surged through me. Philip had taken the bank book with him, and with it, access to the inheritance that was rightfully mine. I felt the walls closing in on me, the weight of betrayal pressing down hard. I needed to think clearly. I couldn't let Philip get away with this, not after everything I'd endured. I grabbed my phone and called the bank, my fingers trembling as I dialed the number. "Hello, I'd like to report a missing bank book," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's tied to an account under my name, Allison Gibson." The bank representative took my information, but her response was both a relief and a shock. "Mrs. Gibson, your account requires valid ID for any withdrawal." The ID on file for Mr. Philip Gibson has expired. No transactions can be made until it's updated. Philip had made a critical mistake. He couldn't access the money without a valid ID. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, a mixture of relief and anger washing over me. He had tried to steal from me, but his own negligence had stopped him. Still, Philip was gone, and he'd left chaos in his wake. As I sat down on the edge of the bed, the reality of my situation began to sink in. I was alone, betrayed, and faced with the prospect of rebuilding my life from the ground up. But as I looked around the house, my house, the home of my family, I felt a spark of determination light within me. Philip might have taken off with my bank book, but he hadn't taken my resolve. This was the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one where I would no longer be a pawn in Philip's game. The game was far from over, but this time, I would be the one making the moves. With Philip gone and the divorce finalized, I stood at the threshold of a new life. The house, once filled with tension and coldness, now seemed to breathe again, its walls no longer holding the weight of a loveless marriage. I took one last look around, packed the remaining boxes into the car, and prepared to leave behind the memories that had haunted me for so long. Moving into my family's old home felt like stepping back in time. The familiar scent of wood and lavender greeted me as I pushed open the door, and a wave of nostalgia hit me. This was where I had grown up, where I had felt safe and loved. It was the perfect place to start over. I spent the next few days unpacking and settling in, each box opened revealing pieces of my past that had been tucked away for years. Photographs of my parents, my childhood toys, and old letters, all reminders of a time when life was simpler, before Philip and the pain that followed. As I organized the attic, I came across a dusty trunk tucked away in the corner. Inside, I found a collection of letters my mother had written to me over the years, letters I had never opened. My hands trembled as I unfolded the first one, her familiar handwriting bringing tears to my eyes. "Allison, my dear," the letter began. "I know life will bring you challenges, but remember that you are stronger than you think. This house will always be a sanctuary for you, a place where you can find peace and rediscover yourself." Her words resonated deeply, as if she had known what I would face long before I did. I read through letter after letter, each one filled with love, wisdom, and the reassurance I desperately needed. As the days turned into weeks, I slowly began to reclaim my life. I focused on renovating the house, turning it into a space that reflected who I truly was. The walls were painted in warm, inviting colors, the garden was tended to with care, and every room was filled with personal touches that made it feel like home. But despite the peace I found in this new chapter, shadows of the past lingered. Philip's disappearance still haunted me, and the unresolved questions gnawed at the back of my mind. What had happened to him? Where had he gone? And most importantly, why did I still feel like he was watching me, waiting for the right moment to reappear? It was during one of these quiet evenings, as I sat by the fireplace with a cup of tea, that I received an unexpected call from Detective Willis. His voice was serious, tinged with concern. "Mrs. Gibson, we've made some progress on Philip's case," he said. "We've recovered some of his belongings, and there's something I need to show you. Can you come down to the station tomorrow?" My heart skipped a beat. "Of course, Detective. I'll be there first thing in the morning." As I hung up the phone, a sense of unease settled over me. I had tried to move on, to leave Philip behind, but it seemed that the past wasn't ready to let go of me just yet. Whatever the detective had found, it would bring me one step closer to the truth, whether I was ready for it or not. The next morning, I arrived at the police station, my nerves on edge. Detective Willis greeted me with a somber expression and led me to his office, where a small evidence bag lay on the desk. Inside was Philip's wallet, battered and worn, along with a crumpled piece of paper that made my stomach drop. "We found this near the area where Philip's car was abandoned," Willis explained, his tone grave. It appears to be a map, but the markings are unusual. It's like someone was planning a route, but for what purpose, we're not sure yet. I examined the map, trying to make sense of the markings. They led to a secluded area outside of town, a place I had never been to before. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. "Do you think this could be connected to his disappearance?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Willis nodded. "It's possible. We're investigating every lead, but this one, it's troubling. It suggests that Philip might have been involved in something dangerous, something that could have led to his vanishing." The implications were chilling. Had Philip gotten in over his head with something, or someone, who was now cleaning up loose ends? And if so, was I next? "I'll need to go to this place," I said, surprising myself with the determination in my voice. "I need to know what he was up to." Willis hesitated but eventually agreed. "I'll have an officer accompany you. We'll do this by the book." Later that day, we drove out to the location marked on the map. The road was long and winding, leading us deeper into the woods. The further we went, the more isolated it became, the trees closing in around us like a living barrier. When we finally arrived, the place was eerily quiet, the only sound being the rustling of leaves in the wind. The officer and I stepped out of the car, our eyes scanning the area for any sign of Philip or whatever he had been involved in. As we searched, I noticed something half buried in the dirt, a metal box, old and rusted. I knelt down and pried it open, revealing a stack of documents inside. The papers were faded, but I could make out Philip's name on several of them, along with the names of other people I didn't recognize. "What is this?" I whispered, my heart racing. What was Philip involved in? The officer took the documents, his expression growing darker with each page he read. "These are contracts, and they're not legal. It looks like Philip was part of some sort of black market operation." My blood ran cold. Philip had always been secretive about his business dealings, but this was something far worse than I could have imagined. "We need to get these back to the station," the officer said, his tone urgent. "This could be the break we've been looking for." As we left the woods, I felt a growing sense of dread. Philip's disappearance was no longer just a mystery, it was a dangerous puzzle, and the more pieces I uncovered, the more I realized just how deep it went. I had thought I could start over, leave the past behind, but it seemed the past had other plans, and now, I was caught in a web of secrets and lies that threatened to pull me under. The game Philip had been playing was far from over, and I was about to find out just how high the stakes really were. Detective Willis was working tirelessly, piecing together the clues from the black market operation that had connected Philip with Alexander Klein, a dangerous figure in the underground world. It was late one evening when the call came. Detective Willis's voice was taut with urgency. "Allison, we've uncovered something crucial. I need you to come to the station right away." My pulse quickened as I grabbed my coat and hurried out the door. The drive to the station felt interminable, each second stretching longer than the last. My mind raced with the possibilities of what might be happening. When I arrived, Willis was waiting for me in his office, his expression grave. "We've traced Philip's dealings further," he said, spreading out a series of documents on his desk. "These papers show transactions and communications with Alexander Klein. Klein's known for being ruthless. He doesn't handle failed deals well." I scanned the documents, my heart sinking. The evidence was overwhelming, showing Philip's deep entanglement with Klein's illegal activities. One document in particular caught my eye, a ledger with Klein's name and significant payments made by Philip. "Who exactly is Alexander Klein?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Klein is a notorious figure in the criminal world," Willis replied. "He's involved in smuggling and has a reputation for eliminating problems. Philip's failure to deliver could mean he's in grave danger." The realization hit me hard. Philip had not only betrayed me, but had also put himself in the crosshairs of a dangerous criminal. I had to confront him, to understand what had driven him to such depths. Willis continued, "We intercepted a message suggesting a meeting between Philip and Klein tonight at an old warehouse on the edge of town. It's a high-risk situation, Allison. You don't have to go, but..." "I'm going." I cut him off, my voice resolute. "I need to see this through. I need to confront Philip myself." Willis nodded, though his concern was evident. "I'll send a team with you for safety. We'll be in position to act if things go wrong." The drive to the warehouse was fraught with tension. The building loomed ahead, its dark, abandoned exterior giving off an ominous vibe. Willis and his team positioned themselves around the warehouse, and we made our way inside with careful steps. The interior was cold and echoing, lit by the sparse light filtering through grimy windows. As we approached, I could hear voices, angry and confrontational. I gestured for Willis to lead the way, and we moved closer, staying hidden behind a stack of crates. Philip was facing off with a tall, menacing figure, Alexander Klein. The intensity between them was palpable. "You've caused me a lot of trouble, Philip," Klein's voice rumbled. "You were supposed to come through. Now you're a liability." Philip's voice quivered. "I can get the money. Just give me a little more time. I didn't mean for it to go wrong." Klein's eyes narrowed. "Time is something you don't have. You've failed me, and that means consequences." I held my breath, watching the scene unfold. Klein reached into his coat, and I saw the glint of a weapon. My heart raced. Willis stepped forward, his gun drawn. "Police, drop the weapon," he commanded. Klein's head whipped around, his gaze settling on Willis. The tension was electric as Klein tossed the weapon to the floor, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Philip, in a sudden burst of desperation, lunged for the gun, his hands shaking uncontrollably. "No, I won't let him take me down." "Philip, stop," I cried out, stepping forward. "This isn't the way. Just put the gun down." Philip's eyes met mine, and for a fleeting moment, I saw regret. His grip on the gun faltered, but before he could lower it, Klein lunged at him. The two men grappled, their struggle fierce and chaotic. Willis and his team moved swiftly, restraining Klein and pulling him away from Philip. The scene was chaotic but controlled. I watched as Klein was handcuffed and led away, his face twisted in fury. Philip was left on the floor, gasping for breath. His eyes met mine again, filled with a deep sorrow. "I'm sorry, Allison. I never wanted it to end like this." Tears welled in my eyes, but I remained silent. Words couldn't undo the pain, the betrayal, or the shattered trust. The man I had once loved was now just a shadow of his former self. As Philip was taken into custody, I stood alone, feeling the weight of the final confrontation settling over me. The nightmares of deceit and manipulation were finally over. The final showdown had been brutal, but it had brought closure.